From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, fine humans. This is the Badass Counseling Show. You have stumbled across us, and it's great to be stumbled upon. And my name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of this show. Whether you are catching us from Brussels, Belgium, or from up in New Brunswick, or way down in Australia, down under, and the Kiwis over there in New Zealand or South Africa, it's great to have you here with the show. This is a lightning round. This is where we just take rapid fire questions, and I'm here helping you out. Take them as they come. I have guests, people checking in live right now on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Facebook. We are taking questions. I am joined in studio with my lovely colleagues who I've had the opportunity to create and build this show with over the last 2 weeks, to the point where we're right around 2 million, not quite there yet, but 2 million downloads. And we're loving it, and we love helping you. I'm joined by Casey over in the booth and Rob the Rocket next to me. Hello, Rob.
Howdy. 2 years, right? Not 2 weeks.
Did I say 2 weeks?
You did.
Well, we're growing very, very quickly.
And I never want to correct you, so you'll have to forgive me.
Oh, that's a mistake right there, and they're not correcting me. Yes, 2 years.
That was a lot to do in 2 weeks.
Indeed. Well, we've been busy little beavers. All right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and dive right in on the questions. Jazzy Field from TikTok asked the question, am I stupid for standing my ground? Now, obviously, I have no idea what Jazzy is talking about insofar as there are no more specifics, but I'm left to infer that she means in her relationships. That's generally a reasonable thing, assumption to make. And so are you wrong for standing your ground? In all honesty, are you stupid for standing your ground? Unless this is the standing of your ground is causing someone to like physically harm you, I think it's a mistake to not stand your ground. Yeah, there's the pick your battles thing, but one of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is they don't stand their ground. Oh, I don't want to deal with the blowback. It's not worth the hassle. It'll change. Oh, you know what? I'm afraid that if I stand my ground or if I speak my truth, they won't like me or maybe they'll leave me. We have all sorts of fears that keep us from standing our ground. And my question, if you and I were in session, I would want to ask you the question, what's the biggest fear you have in standing your ground? I think this notion, by you asking, am I stupid for doing so, that implies that there's a cost for you doing so that causes you to think, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't, right? And so you're thinking, is it worth it? Is it worth it? You're doing a profit and loss analysis, right? And so what I'm saying is I believe that it's almost invariably a good general rule that standing your ground is the wise thing. You want to know why? Because if you don't stand your ground, if you don't set those boundaries, those borders, people are going to run the fuck over you, especially in your most intimate relationship. And I'm actually creating a new course for the website. I have lots of video courses up there that sync up with journalings and book readings and so forth. And I'm creating a new one on dating. And what I tell people is, especially in dating, it is most critical to stand your ground, to stand up for yourself, to speak your truth. Why? Because small things become big things. So if someone is, hurting you, infringing on your territory, being, upsetting or rude or what have you, you have to nip it in the bud, because if you don't nip it in the bud, if you don't do it when it's small, it will become big. Small things become big things. And unfortunately, then you get 2 or 5 or 15 or 25 years into a relationship that you've been allowing something. It's much harder to correct that ship. If someone has been treating you a certain way for a year now or for 15 years, good luck trying to get them to change that behavior. It takes much more gargantuan effort. But so often in the beginning of relationships, we don't want to stand up because it's like, oh, I may lose the person. Oh, they may not like me. It's not worth the pushback. Oh, they'll change. I can change them over time. No, I'm sure he didn't mean it. We make all these excuses and we let it go rather than nipping it in the bud. So short answer to your question, no, you are not stupid for you're standing your ground. In fact, I think it's probably the smartest thing you can do. Is that an absolute rule? No, there are times when we let it go or whatever. But generally, no. Generally, yes, stand your ground. All right. Tammy asked the question here on Facebook. Why did my boyfriend tell me that he loved me and then dump me? There are a couple of answers to this. One is there are certain people that say things when they feel them, but they don't necessarily feel that same feeling tomorrow. So when it comes to saying the words I love you, very powerful words, right? There are some people who are, for instance, who will almost never say it. And I literally have clients who never say it. They'll say it to their buddies, but they won't say it to their own wife. Or they won't say it to their kids, or they won't say it to their girlfriend, okay? There are people like that. I'll never say it. Or I'll only say it after it's been 3 years and I have absolute proof or something like that, okay? But then there are the people who say that the moment they feel a bit euphoric, they say, I love you. Now, I have to be really honest. In past relationships that I was in back in, let's say, my 20s or early 30s, I was kind of that person that when I felt so strongly, and it wasn't just the euphoria of a moment, like some sort of, high that I was on that day. But if I felt it over the course of a couple of weeks, I said, I love you, right? Now, that might be a bit quick for someone, but there are some people who just say it anytime they feel a high. They'll say, oh, I love you, right? And you're counting on that because maybe you interpret someone saying I love you as implicit of commitment, whereas they may be saying it and it's all it implies is this is how I'm feeling in this moment. And so the question becomes, you're asking, how could he say he loved me and then dump me? Because in that moment he felt it and then he was walking away from you. And then he didn't feel it, or it wasn't a perduring feeling, a persistent feeling. It was more a one-off, or it was something he felt when he felt it, but he was not feeling it over a course of time. Then he walked away. In other words, there was no implied commitment. The other reason someone might say they love you and then dump you is saying I love you may be a way of stringing you along, which implies ill intent. The first person may not have had ill intent. They felt it, they said it. They just didn't imply commitment, which would imply the two of you have different understandings of using the word I love you. To you, it may imply commitment. Okay, you're committing to me of sorts. Okay, but this other person who may be saying I love you to you, even when they maybe don't, okay, this is a person with ill intent. And the ill intent may be nothing more than I want you to pour love into my love cup, but I have no intention of doing much more to pour into yours. I'm just going to say what I have to say to keep you around. So there's really no way of knowing what their intent was. And in all likelihood, if someone is using you, they're not going to admit it. So you may never get an answer to that question. But you are wanting to know, why did they say they loved you and dumped you? In the end, you'll never know. There are multiple potential reasons. And in the end, what you're having to do is you have to grieve the loss of the relationship. And not just the relationship itself, but your hopes that you had for the relationship. Maybe you are already planning out ideas and hopes for the future. And now all of that is dead. And now you have to start all over. And so that's that. Next question. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, Sven, over on YouTube, Melly Mel says, my partner recently had a heart attack. How can I help him recover yet not be a doormat? He feels loss of control, so is trying to control me.
Oh, well, it's funny. This goes back to the very first question that was asked at the top of the show. Am I stupid to stand up for myself? And the simple answer in your case, and it's very critical in your case, is no, do not allow yourself to be a doormat. That if he wants to talk out his feelings of loss of control, Melly Mel, I believe was the name of the person asking this question. If he wants to talk about his feelings of loss of control, that you're open to talking about. But this notion that he gets to exert his will onto you, you have to shut that down. You have to be willing to shut that down because his illness that he's experiencing, the medical issues he's going through, and his own emotional trauma of feeling out of control are very significant. They are very real. They are very important. I'm in no way minimizing what he's going through. And I don't hear you minimizing what he's going through. However, neither of those gives him permission to control you. So we're talking about apples and elephants, all right? They don't compare to each other. They are separate issues, Melly Mel. Someone going through a hard time, and you're not the only one. Many of us, many of our listeners, many of our followers have a loved one going through a hard time, let's say medically, as in your case, your husband going through this hard time. And it's very easy to feel sympathy for the person going through it. And the sympathy is good and great and everything, but it does not excuse them mistreating you. And you cannot allow it. You have to stand up for it every time because you are fundamentally teaching him you're training him how to treat you. Do not back down and talk it out and so on and so forth. And if he wants to explode, then you have every reason to get the fuck out of there. And I don't mean permanent. I mean to remove yourself from the situation. You are not obligated. And you follow through with statements like, I want to help you. I am here to help you. I will not tolerate being mistreated. And that takes courage to say. But you ask, how can you help your husband? In all honesty, he needs to be in therapy. One of the things that when I was a hospital chaplain at a level 1 trauma center hospital, one of the things that we know as chaplains, and doctors and nurses know it as well, but their specialty is the medical aspect of it. But there's this whole thing going on inside every patient. All right, in that hospital, they're in a disorienting setting. They're in a boring setting, a sterile setting. Everything is new. They're scared about their health. They've got so much internal dialogue and anxieties and fears going on. In addition to the medical, so part of our work as chaplains, part of my work as chaplains was to encourage people to talk about that. There's not enough staff at any hospital to be able to talk with all people about what's going on inside of them, yet there's shit going on inside of them that has nothing to do with the medicine per se. Well, it's the same in this case. Your husband feeling lost control, that's just one thing. By him going through this significant medical episode phase of his life, is causing him great anxiety, and he's trying to take it out on you, and that's not okay. You have to stand up for yourself, and in all honesty, he should be in counseling. All right, so that he has someone he can get his shit out to, and you're not having to be his therapist, but he can get his shit out, and you have to be setting your boundary of, hey, buddy, I love you. I'm here to, I'm sympathetic, but you cannot control or hurt me. All right, next question. Angel May asks, parents who cater to the quote-unquote slacker sibling. You don't really ask a question, but basically what I hear you saying is, what do you think about that, or what should I do about that? If you are the sibling of someone who is a slacker and being catered to, it probably feels like you're getting a raw deal. You wouldn't have stated it that way, and now I'm going to assume you're asking for yourself. If you're asking on behalf of someone else, okay, fine, but I'm going to assume you're asking on behalf of yourself. That makes it easier to answer in terms of, this person, that person. The slacker sibling. You didn't just say, parents, what do you think about someone who's catering to my sibling but not to me? That's a golden child, right? You had to throw in there that they're catering to the slacker sibling. In other words, it bothers you that in your estimation, you wouldn't put slacker in there. You would have just said, what do you think, Sven, of parents catering to one kid over another? But you felt the need to include slacker. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have. I'm just saying that's an indicator. What's it an indicator of? That my sibling is being bad and getting rewarded. And you know what? If I were in that situation, I'd be pissed too. It's not fair, right? Wait a minute. And first of all, it's not even fair that... it's not fair that somebody is being treated differently. All the siblings should be roughly, overall, being treated roughly the same. But it's unfair that there is a golden child getting all the attention, but this person not even, that it's like the more they slack off, the more attention they get, right? Squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's not fair. So what I hear you saying, you just put a question after it. You didn't ask a specific question. So I'm going to say this, you have every right to stand up for yourself. You have every right to say, this doesn't feel good. Please don't do this. You have every right to say, what about me? You have every right to speak and have your needs met. Every right. And the truth is, if you don't speak and have your needs met and insist that your needs be met, or at least that your needs be heard, then you are tacitly endorsing this, right? You're saying, well, I'm okay, or I'm going to be okay with crumbs. And you don't have to be okay with crumbs. But then there's the deeper issue, and that's this, that if you're not getting your needs met and you're getting your wants met, then you're still going back to the well saying, please give me what I want. Please meet my needs. Please give me affection. Please give me attention. Please be nicer. Please be nicer. In other words, you're still wanting something from your parents. And there's nothing wrong with wanting something from your parents. There's nothing wrong with that. However, the people who have the power to do the most damage, that is to say, in terms of making us feel bad, are very often the people, more often than not, who have something we want, right? That if someone has something that I want, they have the power to make me miserable by what? Saying no, by not giving it to me. Okay, therefore... if you want something from your parents and they're not giving it, they have the power to make you miserable. And they may be doing it unintentionally. In fact, that's probably a reasonable assumption, but that it's not this malicious thing, oh, let's deprive Billy of attention. No, it's probably like, Sammy needs our attention right now. We're going to focus on Sammy. But the bottom line is it hurts. It hurts. And so the real question, if you really want to go to the source of your issue, you dive inside. And you ask yourself, what is it I'm really wanting? If I got more attention, if I got more love, if I got more support, then what? Well, and then you'd say, well, then I'd feel like I have a normal relationship with my parents or a life-giving relationship. And then what? Well, then I'd feel like like they see me. And then what? Well, then I'd feel like I matter and like I'm important. And then what? Well, then I'd feel like, I guess, content and maybe whole. And then what? I guess then I'd kind of have peace. Yeah. And then what? Well, then maybe, it's the peace. Or maybe after that, then I'd really start to do what I want with my life. And that sequence of answers is roughly sketched similarly to what I hear all the time from clients when I take them through similar sequences. What are you still wanting from that parent? And it roughly follows that trajectory of down at the bottom. It's a sense of wholeness. It's a sense of security. It's a sense of peace. It's a sense of groundedness. And then if I felt that, I would finally be able to go on with my life. So it's almost as though I've always had one foot in the past, wanting to get that affirmation, that sense of connection, that caring about me, that sense that I matter, so that I could have peace, so that I'm not, that's that hole in the love cup that my book is named after. That I have this foot in the past because I have this hole in my love cup and I can't really move forward as me and vigorous because I'm still trying to fix a hole that I never caused, fix a hole that was created by the very people I'm wanting to fix it. And the bottom line is you can fix that on your own. That's what all of my tools are for, because you can assume that if you're 30 or 50 or 70, that if you have a 30-year pattern of behavior of your parents not meeting your needs when you've explicitly stated them, it is a reasonable assumption that that 30-year pattern of behavior is going to continue for another 30 years. So at some point you realize I'm not going to get my needs met through them. So then you have to do the work of healing that hole, for which I wrote the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, for this exact purpose. All right, Rob?
And speaking of your book here, we have Jason on YouTube who says he realized through the book that both he and his kid's mom were wanting the kids to fill their love cup. And he wants to know, how can I repair the damage from my kids to be the cycle breaker so they can fill their love cups and pass off to their children? I'm going to highly recommend your book. I thought about writing them a letter, maybe apologizing, give them a copy of it. What do you recommend,
How
Sven?
old are the kids?
He doesn't say.
Yeah, I did a video about 2 years ago, and I reposted it on December 25th of 2023. If you have adult kids, and by that I mean you could really use this on a kid over 15 or 16. Generally, what I had in mind when I did it was, somebody in their 20s or 30s or 40s, adult child, right? But the title of that one that I reposted on December 25th of 23 was something along the lines of 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. And I encourage you, if you have an adult child that you feel you have wounded or you're wanting to help or you're wanting them to heal, or you think you're wanting to reestablish a connection with them, which you really don't have control over, but you do have control over the things you can do to help them heal. But they get to choose if they want to have a relationship with you. Ages, Rob?
They are adults, 26 and 23.
Yeah. Go back and watch that video from December 25th. I'm in a big bomber jacket and there's snow around me. I'm sitting outside on a log in the woods on my property. And I give recommendations for what you can do in addition to the book, which is the tool once somebody actually wants to heal themselves. There's a Hole in My Love Cup is one of my books, and it's designed to be a tool for someone who wants to heal. All right. But in that video, what I talk about are things you can do when someone doesn't even really maybe want you want to be in a relationship with you. And maybe you want the relationship, but you're going to have to let that go because you don't have control over it. But there are things that you can do for them to help them heal, even if they never choose to have a relationship with you. And if you have listened to my podcast and read the book, then you're familiar with what I'm going to say next. But it's necessary to say, if you are a parent who has adult children who maybe at this point in time don't want a relationship with you, and it's very hard, and you want that relationship back. Okay, I've been there. I've lived this. And so I want to ask you this question. Them not wanting a relationship with you is derived from them having pain that they ascribe to you. And so they're keeping distance from you. And so then the question becomes this: if you had to choose between your child being healed and you don't get a relationship with them, or you get a relationship with your child, but they're not healed, which would you choose? Okay. And forgive me, the right answer is to heal my child even if I don't get a relationship with them. Now, that's not the easy answer. But it's the right answer. Why? Because that's you as a parent saying, I am the parent and it is my job to meet the needs of the child. It is not my job to get the relationship. And the truth is, if your child thinks that you are trying to help them heal so that you can get a relationship, it would be with them. It would be very easy for that adult child to consider your attempts to help them as just a setup. It's a sales job. It's a snow job for you to get them back and keep getting your needs met. But once you can do everything you can to help your child heal, knowing there's nothing in it for you, not even the guarantee of forgiveness or a relationship. Now it's you giving to your child of free will with no expectation. Now your actions are honorable. That's genuine love. Go ahead, Rob.
He certainly says, yes, them healing, but we do have a relationship.
No, then you're blessed. Then you've already got an inroad. And what that means, dude, is that these efforts that are outlined in that video on December 25th of 2023 that I have up on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, that will make great strides. It'll work you, but it will help you make great strides in helping them heal. And that's really the goal. Parenting doesn't stop in terms of but it changes as they age. It changes into tending to their emotional needs, particularly the ones that you're responsible for, that you created. And that is deliberate parenting. Much more to come right after this short break.
I had a really good start in my life, and I've been successful in my career, but I have to say I've learned so much and improved my outlook on life since I met Sven and picked up a copy of Badass Wisdom. With the daily meditations as journaling prompts, I've uncovered a lot of memories that weren't totally pleasant. With Sven's guidance, I've achieved some new understanding, and honestly, I feel lighter. Badass Wisdom is a great read, in nice small bites, and I think anyone can benefit from it. So go to badasscounseling.com and get the book or the audiobook. It could change your life.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And yes, we are back with more of a lightning round. We are taking questions live. Folks, we are live right now on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And we're taking folks' questions. We're getting a good breadth of questions. And I just had one come up here across my feed. Question from a woman from Minnesota who had gone to a graduate school that I had gone to. And basically she was asking, what do you do with someone when you've been cheated on over a long period of time, over several years? What do you do with that? And how do you enable yourself to pick better in the future? And I hope she's still online so that she can hear the answer. If you've been cheated on over time, if you've been cheated on at all, but one that has gone on over time, there's immense amount of pain there, sadness, betrayal, rage, disappointment, grief. You have to, anytime you're trying to heal from anything, death of your beloved dog of 15 years or death of a relationship, anytime you're dealing with any sort of death or loss at all, you have feelings in you. You have a memory that has emotional charges attached to it, betrayal, anger, sadness, disappointment, whatever it might be. And until you do the work of actively bringing those feelings up, not running from them anymore, not trying to avoid your pain, but bringing those feelings up, the more you do that, the more you're flushing it out. And I'm an absolute believer in words, the power of words, that when we put our feelings into words, specifically written words, and you guys have heard me say it a million times, that journaling and writing letters that you don't send enables you to put it into words, and that has a healing power. I'm constantly telling people, encouraging them to journal and write letters they don't send. And, I just had a friend of my son's reach out to me recently, and we stay in touch pretty regularly. And he's like, Sven, well, shoot, I got your book, I didn't read it, and I didn't do the exercise. I said, dude, start putting your shit into writing. And just this week, he's like, okay, I sat down, I've been doing it, Sven, and criminy, you're right. It really does get it out of me. I already feel a little bit better. I said, well, imagine that. If you did it a little bit and you feel better, imagine how much better you'll feel if you do more. And so if you've been cheated on, you have to keep flushing all that stuff out. You have to keep welcoming it up and flushing it out. And then the second part of that question from the woman from Minnesota, the second part of the question was, and how do I avoid myself from picking poorly in the future? And the way you do that, anything that's causing you to pick poorly or not picking poorly, the way I define it is just you're not listening to your own intuition, or you can't hear your own intuition. And if you can't hear your own intuition, if you're not listening to yourself, it's not that you're assessing the person you're with. This is the big misconception that I should be always assessing the person I'm with. Are they a problem? Are they this? Are they that? You're looking in the wrong direction. All you need to do is be able to tune into yourself and feel how someone feels, moment to moment, day to day, week to week, year to year. That is this particular action that they're engaging in. If it doesn't feel right or doesn't feel good, or there's a little ping on the sonar that something is off, you have to honor that. And you have to stand up and say, hey, you know what? That didn't feel good, what you said there. I need you to apologize for that. Or can we talk about the fact that you're not really as engaged as you were in the beginning? That if you're not standing up for yourself in the beginning of a relationship, those things can grow and metastasize. And the truth is, you pick better when you have the courage to eliminate people that are not in the ballpark, or people who aren't meeting your needs, or people who are disappointing you or hurting your feelings. You begin by standing up to it and insisting that they change. And if they don't change, you have to be willing to leave the relationship, because this is someone who is not interested in meeting your needs. And these patterns are set very early on in a relationship, and you have to be willing to do that. If you're not willing to do that, you will endure all manner of shit, and it'll just get down the road, and someone is now, they've conditioned you, really. Or you've conditioned them to, you're allowing certain behaviors that don't feel good. Those behaviors are going to continue, not because they have malice towards you, but simply because it's never been shut down, or you've never told them that it was a bad thing. So you have a responsibility to stand up for how you're treated, which means, back to this notion of how do I stop myself from picking bad people in the future? Bad people, so to speak, are just people who are hurting your feelings. And it always starts small. So if I don't allow someone to hurt my feelings when it's small, in other words, if I stop them, stand up to them and say, hey, I need an apology, or we need to talk out problems, or I notice this person doesn't like to apologize. I need you to apologize for this, Tanya. Whatever it is. And if they don't do it, then they have just told me that they're going to continue engaging in behaviors that don't feel good, and they're not going to apologize. Well, then I got to ask myself the question, why am I staying in a relationship with such a person? Now it's on me. You have a relationship, or you have a responsibility to weed out those people, to stand up for what you want and what you need, your feelings, your desires. And if you don't, then you're perpetuating bad behavior. Next question. Dull Nell on TikTok says, I'm an atheist. Will your book work for me? Sure. It has nothing to do with faith. It's not a religious book. Are there religious mentions? Sure. Do I mention quotes from the Buddha? Yes. Do I have quotes from Judaism? Yes. I mentioned the story of Cecil B. DeMille, and when he, filming the 10 Commandments, that film, and one of the critical scenes in that movie, and so forth. So I mention all different religions, but it's about soul. And soul is not necessarily linked to any religion. I don't mean soul, you have an eternal soul. I speak of soul as like intuition, as your spirit, who you really are. And, some people have read my book and thought that it's a religious book. There's no religion in my book. I'm not selling religion. All right. I'm trying to help people heal, and you can do it. Some people use God language. Some people don't use God language. So what I'm trying to do in that book in terms of this sort of stuff is sort of straddle that line, create a book that speaks to all people. Hey, got a comment here from Chris. Chris on TikTok says, dude, your work of holding on tighter in order to heal works, in all capital letters with exclamation points. After 16 years of marriage, my wife left. For those of you that don't know, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is how to let go. They're clinging, they're holding on. I can't let go. I still want the person, or I'm still mad at the person. I still have some feelings or memories with emotional charges tied up in this person. And generally, it's if you're holding on, and people will say, "Oh, you got to just let go, man." Yeah, well, that's all well and good, but how? How, fuckface? How do you let go? No, you just do it. No, you don't just do it. That's not how it works. You can try stuffing that shit down, but that shit will bite you in the ass in 2 years or 20 years. Any feelings you stuff down will bite you in the ass. It may be a slow bite, a little nibble, 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 or it may be a big chomp, or what have you, but stuff down feelings, it's never an answer for happiness. Short-term solution, not a long-term one. And so what I tell people is if you're still clinging to someone, how do you let that person go when you're holding on and wanting them or missing them, longing for them, lusting for them, whatever it is? How do you let go? You let go by holding on tighter. And what that means is you go to your favorite restaurant, and that the two of you used to love to go to. Sit at the bar, bring your journal with you, write it, journal in your journal about what you're feeling, or get a table, whatever. Go alone. Write them a letter that you don't send to them. Wear their favorite t-shirt as you lay in bed and watch your favorite movie. That's going to bring up feelings of them, memories of them. Journal it out, write it out. Write them a letter you don't send. Go for a walk in your favorite park. Listen to your favorite music. Go to your favorite bagel shop and have that, sesame bagel with half cream cheese, half peanut butter, and that they always used to have, and that makes you think of them. Great, go do that and write about how you're feeling. The goal is to flush out all of the emotional charges that are attached to all of those memories, till eventually, when you decharge those memories, now you've just got memories with no emotional charges. Now you're letting go. Now your anxiety is going down. Your feelings of longing are going down. Your feelings of sadness over not having them are going down. That is what I mean to let go by holding on tighter. But thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comment. And B, you gave me an opportunity to throw that out there for others and help them have access to that tool. So we got some salty folks here. Film writer says, are you selling something? No, I'm here free of charge. Literally, we don't get paid for this podcast. There are three of us people. We got Rob, who is retired former senior vice president at Paramount Pictures or wherever, a couple of different studios, etc. We've got KC over in the booth, who actually built an $80 million company in Manhattan, has been president, primary shareholder since day one. They're both over 60. I'm approaching 60, and none of us get paid for this. We all invest our own time. Rob, perhaps the most time every week, 10 to 15 hours of all the editing and mastering and so forth. None of us get paid for this. What do? We do this because we're trying to help people. Do we throw up the occasional mention of my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup? Yes. You want to know why we do that? Because that's 80% of my counseling method in one book. And there's a mental health epidemic in the United States, in North America. In many countries, people don't have access to mental health, whether because of cost or because of accessibility, whatever it is. And so what I did, I had to get myself out of a 12-year suicidal depression. I couldn't find a therapist who could really help me. I had to figure out my own tools. And I read roughly 1,000 books in many disciplines. And I created my own way out. And what I've done then is I've had a counseling practice for the last 30 years. And I've put much of my practice into that book so that people could have, for whatever it is, 15, 20 bucks, whatever it is, they could heal themselves if they didn't have access to therapy or just couldn't afford it, right? No, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people. We're trying to help people. Rob volunteers a lot of time at his place of worship. He does it because he cares. He does it because he wants to. KC volunteers. She sponsors blood drives with her company. She helps out, does a lot of work with the homeless. I do work with the homeless as well as veterans. We're just trying to help. We each have our own careers or are retired or whatever. That pays our bills. But this is us just trying to help. So that's why we're here taking your questions. All right. You got one for me now, Rob. Thanks for that moment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
This is from either K. Gibson or KG Ibsen. I'm not sure. It's all, there's no punctuation.
Because there is a Henrik Ibsen, which
There
starts
is a
with Henrik.
Henrik
Right.
Ibsen, it's
Okay,
true.
go ahead.
What do you do when you have a good man now after a toxic, abusive relationship? I think sometimes I don't deserve him. He's too nice. I sometimes crave my ex. I have your book, and I've listened to it as well.
Okay, and before I even answer that question, first of all, this is something I see with some measure of regularity, where you're used to in your past, whether it's from your home of origin or past relationships, you're used to sort of this flying circus of shit show, right? And so when you get someone who's normal and good and loving, you don't believe it. You're wondering, when's the other shoe going to drop? Or you're thinking, well, I don't deserve this. It doesn't feel credible. It doesn't feel right. You're so uncomfortable because you're so used to the crazy. And when you don't have the crazy, it's hard to fucking relax and actually enjoy it. I tell clients this all the time. Oh, shit. Where they've had the crazy past and the crazy relationships. And I say, you wouldn't know what to do with a man that's really good to you or a woman who genuinely cares about you. You wouldn't know what to do. You'd be so uncomfortable. And that's precisely what this person is saying. But my question is, what was my question? Read her question again, please, Rob.
What do you do when you have a good man after a toxic, abusive relationship? I think sometimes I don't deserve him. He's too nice. Sometimes I crave my ex.
Well, okay. And then the craving of the ex, the question I would want to ask you is, what is it you're craving most about your ex? If you had to put it in one sentence or less, that would be a telling question. Is it that you crave the excitement? Well, then the problem is inside of you. And the problem is that you still haven't done the work to flush out your pain and your fears that are causing your lust for that excitement, so to speak. That high and the low that comes with the getting hurt and the apologies and whatever else it might have been. But the real question is, what do you miss the most about your ex? All right. Film writer follows up with, we don't even know if the questions are from real people. Film writer, why don't you ask a legitimate question and I'll prove it to you by answering your question. I already answered your first one. Why don't you go across Facebook and TikTok and YouTube right now and look at all the questions that are coming up from people and watch me answer them. Then you'll know. That's how you know. All right, next question. Enough of that.
We can't make this stuff up.
Right. I am not, because I'm not a film writer. I don't know how to make up such things. All right. So what have we got next? Is it okay to lose a very close friend due to the conspiracy theories they believe? You said, is it okay to lose? You put a double O in there. So losing a very close friend means they potentially left you because of the conspiracy theories. But to lose a very close friend, technically to lose something means you're letting them go because of their conspiracy theories. I'm going to answer them both. If you are wanting to let go of someone because they believe in conspiracy theories and beliefs, if you want to let them go. It's your life. You have every right to do that what you want to do. If it's, and you can explain it and just say, it just doesn't work for me. I love you very much. I'm going to miss you as a friend, but I just need to pull away for a bit, or I just don't want as much interaction, or you don't even have to tell them, but you have every right to pull back from someone whose way of life or their belief system either doesn't jibe with yours or it just doesn't feel good. But then if you interpret it the other way, not is it okay to lose them, but is it okay to lose them? In other words, they've ditched you. And you're asking, is that okay? Well, it was done to you. So on one hand, you don't really have a choice. Do they have a right to walk away from you because of their conspiracy theories? Anybody has a right to walk away from anyone, obviously, except children. That's not okay. If you have children under the age 18, you have an obligation to those children. But except in the most extreme, unusual circumstances, that's not okay. But is it okay for someone to walk away from you? Yes. But if they have walked away from you because of their conspiracy theories, likely what's happening is you're feeling rejected, unwanted. And so those feelings of feeling rejected and unwanted, you have inside of you. And it's time to flush those out of you so that you're no longer feeling those feelings. And this is what we do with any unwanted or untoward feelings, is we have to welcome them up. And by doing so and putting them into words, we release those. That the more you do that, as I was talking about earlier, the more you release those feelings and they don't have such a grip over you. All right, next question. Boho Girl on TikTok asks the question. Boho Girl asks, Rob, you're going to enjoy this one.
I'm ready.
Yeah, we've never had this one. How do you tell your boss without rocking the boat that you need to be paid in cash instead of checks because they bounce? I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing like, that is super fucked up. Not your question. Your question's totally legit. I have mad respect and for the position you're in. But what the fuck? You're being paid in checks that bounce? I'll be very honest with you. You have every right to go to your boss and say, listen, these checks are bouncing. I need to be paid in cash. Now, fundamentally, what you're conveying to him by doing, or her by doing so, is you're saying, without saying it, you're basically saying, I can't do this. It's fucking up my life, and I don't want checks in the future. Oh, no, our checks will be fine. No, I don't trust you, is fundamentally what you're saying. And it's quite possible that's how it'll be perceived. But the bottom line is, this is just, I don't know if you're in the U.S. or what country you might be in, but there is no justification for a boss paying their employees in checks that bounce. You have every right. You have the backing of the legal system that they have an obligation to pay you. Services rendered, payment due. So you have every right to go in there and say, hey, listen, boss, I'm assuming you're going through hard times or whatever, but I need to be paid in cash in the future because I need to have my money. I need to have it on time. I have bills that have to be paid. I have direct withdrawal on some of my, bills, and I just need to be paid in cash in the future. I mean, if I'm really honest with you, there's almost no way you can say that to your boss without rocking the boat. Without your boss being upset. There's no nice way to couch. You can be decent and say, you can be respectful. Hey, boss, I'm not sure, I'm sure maybe there's some struggles or some problems in the accounting department, whatever. But in the end, in the future, I need to be paid in cash. And if they say no, then you've got a hard decision to make, right? But the bottom line is, I guarantee you, as a matter of absolute fact, as a business owner, KC is a business owner, she's nodding her head. As a business owner, when your checks are bouncing. Your boss is hearing from the bank, and basically, fundamentally, by your boss doing that, your boss is saying, I don't respect your time, your effort, your labor. The mere fact that the checks are bouncing, I guarantee your boss knows it, and they're not coming and talking to you about it. They're not apologizing for it. They're not making efforts to rectify it. Shit like that, they're fundamentally saying, I'm willing to take advantage of your goodwill. I'm willing to let you keep working in hopes that your check might go through this time. They're taking advantage of your goodwill. And as long as you allow it, you are tacitly allowing them to take advantage of your goodwill. And I know you don't want that. You want to be paid. And at some point in life, you have to stand up. Now, that may mean, they tell you to hit the bricks, or they may try to make your life hard. But on one hand, that sucks. But on the other hand, do you really want to stay at a job where you don't even know if you're getting paid or getting paid on time or getting the full amount? I mean, on one hand, if we're really digging deep, isn't it possible this is sort of your own soul's way of saying, it's getting to be time for me to go, potentially. But you have every right to stand up for yourself. You have every right to not back down. There's just no excuse for that. And the mere fact that you said checks, plural. You said, how do I tell my boss I want to get paid in cash instead of checks? Because the checks, plural, bounce. In other words, this is more than once. It's a pattern. Your boss is taking advantage of your goodwill. And you, quite frankly, just go in and tell the truth and say, this is how it is. But you have to be willing to walk away, because it's quite possible that he will try to make your life difficult, or he will make up bullshit excuses. And if it's anything other than apology and we'll fix it now, it's an excuse. Rob?
Why not start with, when can I expect my actual payment, however he wants to do it? I don't care if it's Bitcoin, but can I get my remuneration? When is it coming? Because otherwise, if you say your checks are bouncing, okay, you're fired and you're never going to get the money, is my guess.
Great. That's good counsel from Rob. Next question from Angler Dad. My wife just cheated and I caught her, but I don't want to leave. Please help. And 5 exclamation points. My wife just cheated and I caught her, but I don't want to leave. I'm going to answer this, even though there was no real question there, except, please help. I'm going to ask that everybody sort of weigh in. So Angler Dad, right now on TikTok and on Facebook and on YouTube, folks are going to offer their input on their ideas of help, because we have a lot of people that tune into these who have been in exactly your situation. And so my wife just cheated on me and I caught her, but I don't want to leave. Please help. My first response to you is, you need some space, dude. And if you don't want to leave permanently, that's fine. But I recommend getting some space to fucking think, because right now you've got so many fucking questions and feelings and thoughts swirling around inside of you. You've got anger, you've got betrayal, you've got sadness. Whether or not you're feeling them all right now, those would be the natural responses. Those are the natural responses to a massive breach of trust. In a way, the person that just asked about their checks and bouncing, that's a breach of trust, especially when it's being done repeatedly. Well, you're getting it on another significant level. Not getting your money that you've earned, that's significant. Having your spouse cheat on you is significant. What I would be going into if you and I were in session together is I would be asking you, why don't you want to leave? If there were a fear driving your behavior, Angler Dad, if there were a fear driving your behavior, what's the fear driving the behavior? What are you most afraid of if you do leave? Why is it you want to stay when someone has absolutely breached the trust to the point where you don't know if you can ever trust them again? And to be very honest with you, one of the things that I've seen, and a lot of people believe, once a cheater, always a cheater. I don't necessarily believe that. I believe if 2 caveats are met, the person can change. And the 2 caveats are, one, are they going down deep into why they cheated in the first place? Because, and this is really deeper than just marital counseling, the problems in a relationship, someone cheating is not being driven by problems in the relationship. Because fundamentally, that's just a throwaway excuse. You're blaming fundamentally the other person for your cheating or your relationship for your cheating. No, your needs for someone else, rather than talking out your relationship issues with your spouse, your desire to go to someone else stems from a precursor problem, something that happened long before this relationship that is eating at your core belief system down deep inside of you. And I talk about this in some of my books. But the other thing that this person will cheat again, but it may not, if they don't do that deep healing to find the root causes of what really drove this. It's easy for them to blame the relationship, but that's not it. If they don't go down to those root causes, they will cheat again. But the other caveat is they may not engage, it may not be cheating of an emotional or sexual variety. It may be, if we were to change the definition of cheating from, sleeping with someone or having an emotional affair with something, to engaging in a behavior, any behavior that has the power to blow up the relationship, that they will do again. If they don't do the deep work of healing where the cheating first came from, they will at some point in the future engage in behaviors that have power to blow up the relationship. And you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, if the core need that drove the cheating predates the relationship, predates the actual acts of cheating, that it's some deeper need that's going on that they may not even be aware of, they're going to attempt to meet that need or make a particular deep, long-held pain go away by cheating, gambling, hitting the bottle, hitting drugs, overcommitting, overworking, overexercising, overparenting, anything to meet that same need that cheating met. And cheating is fundamentally about what? It's trying to get high because my life sucks, or it's trying to numb myself because my life is too volatile, right? That's what basically any drug is. Either it's trying to get high from a life that is unsatisfying or that is too life-sucking, or it's trying to get numb from a life that is too crazy, right? And that's what cheating is used for. And that comes from long ago problems way back in childhood. And so unless those childhood problems are fixed, they're going to attempt to do that same thing using some other mechanism. All right. Next question. Rob, did you have something you wanted to say?
I have 2 real estate questions.
Really?
Yes. First, Clara says, how do you get out of a relationship when you live with someone and they have no job and nowhere to go? I've worked on the relationship. Nothing is changing. And then Teresa says, how to let go when one made the moronic decision to get involved with someone that I share walls with, a condo. I would move if it was an option.
Oh, okay. I got to separate those two. So the first one again is, give it to me.
The first one was, Clara, how do you get out of a relationship when you live with someone and they have no job and nowhere to go? The relationship ain't working.
Well, the fact that the relationship ain't working, the reason you say that you're struggling to get out of the relationship, you don't mention any reason that's wrong with you for why you can't get out of. Gee, I can't afford it. I have to take my mother wherever I go and she needs special hospitalization. You don't say anything like that. You just say the only reason you can't end the relationship is because this person I've been in a relationship with is completely dependent upon me. This is going to sound really fucking cold, man, but their problem. That's their problem. And at some point you have every right. You have every right to say, listen, I'm going to give you a month. I'm going to give you a month. You need to be out in a month. And if not, I'm going to move you out, or I'm going to, whatever. You don't even have to necessarily go to the ultimatum state, but you have every right to kick somebody out. They're not having a job or a place to go or anything. In the end, isn't your problem. You have every right to protect yourself. And they have every right to continue to not work. Why? They're getting a free ride and you're happy to give it to them. But the truth is, if you feel like you can't do this, like that would be too cold or too ruthless, to say, you got a month to get out. I need you to get out. If you can't do that, don't do it. You want to know what's going to happen? 6 months from now, you're going to say to the person, you know what? You got a month. I need you to get the fuck out. You're not fed up enough yet to take the bold action, potentially. Give it 6 more months of pain. Give it 3 more months of pain. Give it 9 more months of enduring this shit. And then you will find it. One of the most beautiful things about pain in life is that it drives us to break through barriers that we couldn't do without it. You've heard me say, change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. And so once your pain gets bad enough, there you go. Now, the other question is this, and this is from Guru over on TikTok. That's a great point, Guru. I'm going to bring it up. Guru says, well, it depends if they're on the lease or the deed. And Guru says, I'm a real estate broker. Thank you. I appreciate that input. That's a really good point. Are they on the lease or the deed? And if so, then I got to ask the question, if they're on the lease or the deed, how come they're not paying their share of the rent? Right? They're not working. How the fuck are they paying their share of the rent? Assuming that's the original deal. Has the original agreement, if their original agreement was some derivative of 50-50, are they still engaged in their 50% support of it? Now, I'm going to guess, and I'm left guessing here, Guru, as I'm sure you can imagine, I'm left guessing that they are not responsible for 50% of the rent, because if they are, and you're covering them, then you need to start collecting rent. All right, from them as well as back rent. If they are not on the lease, then yeah, you have every right to end the relationship and tell them they need to get the hell out. And if they are on the lease, you have every right to ask them if you can buy them out. Or what may need to happen is you may need to just leave that particular location yourself. Get yourself out to separate yourself from the person. All right.
Clara says it's been 2 years.
Oh, for God's sake.
And it's getting bad enough.
Okay, great. Clara, you, on one hand, you're a saint. I love you. God bless you for trying to do right by someone. But I'm betting, Clara, really what's driving it is your fearfulness of standing up to another person and feeling bad that you're standing up for your rights, knowing, oh, they'll be inconvenienced. This is someone who, like the last question I answered, someone is using you, Clara. Someone is using you, and it's not right, and it's not okay. And you have every right to begin to shut that down. And Guru follows back with an agreement has to be mutually agreed on and modified. But otherwise, when the lease runs out, I'd say get the hell out of there. But you have to begin to protect yourself. At what point do your feelings, your needs, your wants matter even more than, gee, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or I don't want to put them in a bad spot? You have every right to protect yourself and move forward with your life. I'm taking one last question, then we're going to call it a day.
Same answer for the condo question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. What was the condo question then?
How to let go when one made the moronic decision to get involved with someone that I share walls with, a condo. I would move if it was an option.
So the person that you're with, but is the person that you've been with, are they living with you as well?
It looks like they're living together in the condo. They started a relationship. Now she wants out.
Oh, yeah. And you come up with some sort of mutually agreed upon thing. And I'll be very honest with you. This is one of those situations where I recommend talking to a legal professional, real estate broker such as Guru was, talking to someone who knows what your legal rights are. This is outside of the scope of what I talk about. I don't know anything about the law and I don't claim to. Find out what your rights are and then begin to be assertive in moving in the direction that you need to move in to get your needs met and move on with your life. Does that hit it, Rob?
Well, she says moving is not an option. So
Right.
It's hard to say. Maybe she's sort of the guest in the... Or maybe it's her condo.
But wait,
who knows? Who knows?
But are they still in a relationship?
Yep.
Well,
But she wants out of it.
out of the relationship.
How to let go.
Oh, that's the question.
How to let go when I've made the decision to get involved with somebody that I'm living with in a condo.
Oh, and so she doesn't necessarily say she wants out of the living situation per se. She just wants to know how to let go emotionally.
Well, and she said she'd move, but that's not an option.
Right. So then what you have to do is you let go by just the same thing I say with letting go of anything else. You have to go inside of yourself. This is like someone who is, in a relation, in a family situation where you're still living, let's say, with your parents, and your parents are treating you poorly, but you can't get out. You've got to do the work of flushing out all your feelings and getting down to that, the personal work, the journaling, the letter writing. That's what you have to do and keep flushing that out, even though you're in the difficult situation of living together. Because there can be a transformation back into just cohabitating, or there can potentially at some point in the future be an agreement to end the lease together or what have you, or one person buy the other person out. But for now, you still have to do the internal work to get all those feelings out of you.
I told him I'm not leaving. I've been here first.
Well, and when we take a hard line with somebody, and that sounds like it's your right, but when we take a hard line with someone, oftentimes, even if they don't want to stay, they'll become entrenched because you're exerting your will over someone else. And it could be that that person is just entrenching themselves just as kind of a fuck you to you. But once you are willing to move out, or once you've sort of broken them down, that's a separate issue. Things could change. But if you're simply trying to let go of the person and move on, yet you want to stay in the place, and both your names are on the lease.
No, it's just she's on the lease, and it's her and her daughter, and he wanted them to go get an apartment. Very odd situation.
Well, then, okay, why can't you just throw the guy out then? I guess is the question. Just throw him out.
He said it would be easier for us than for him.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not your... we're back to where I was with the other one. In the end, if someone's taking advantage of you, taking advantage of a situation, it's like, oh, you got to go. Sorry, you got to go. And you got to be... You're feeling... And this is so interesting. This is an extreme giver sort of thing. That I'm so worried about the other person's feelings, not wanting to hurt the other person's feelings, not wanting to put them in a hard spot. Do you matter, people? Because and I'm not scolding you, okay? I don't want it to sound like that, but it's just like, at what point in your life do you matter enough to say no to someone, even if it means putting them in a hard spot or even if it means hurting their feelings, at what point in life do your feelings finally matter? Because otherwise, you're engaging in these relationships where you're giving, and other people are just happy to take and take and take and take. But you will have a mutual, respect-filled relationship when you stand up for you and give. And when they stand up for themselves and give. Now, that's a life-giving relationship. So, on behalf of KC and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, our entire Badass Counseling Show team, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.